Folks, welcome into a mystery race night. This game is Japanese only. My inability to pronounce the title is going to be pretty obvious. It's a pretty neat game, though. I can give it a shot here. This is Shinrei Jusatsushi Taromaru. Sega Saturn. Let's see how they do. I don't know a ton about this game, but it looked great.
You're a psychic assassin, psychic warrior, and it's kind of a run and gun style game. It's really interesting. I think our players are gonna have a great time with it.
I'm ready to roll.
All right, I'm gonna give them the countdown.
30 minutes.
Yep.
Whoever can get the furthest in 30 minutes is the champ of the race. That is the goal. This one's a pretty linear game, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't find any obvious places where there's any sort of branching, so I think this one will be really straightforward to evaluate. I don't know what whether or not there's the potential for full game over. Based on the default settings everyone's almost certainly using, because I didn't instruct them to change them. You start with 3 lives, and I think they're on normal mode. Every time you lose all your lives, we just get a continue. You start right from where you left off, so it's not very punishing at all. So you can see this target flying around on screen. You can use that to get an idea of what thing you're aiming at. And you can just, basically the equivalent of Mega Man Lemons, just shooting uncharged attacks, but you can also charge it up to do pretty good damage. I found that there wasn't a lot of advantage for me to mash compared to just charging up my attacks. So this is not feeling like a particularly mash heavy game, though I think if you use turbo, that would be different. We got our Sunset Riders running on top of the stampeding bulls.
That's classic.
I think the thing that's most interesting about this game that you can start to see on Saxy's screen here is the way that the background's actually kind of in 3D, and it turns as you move through the stages sometimes. As you round corners or go down alleyways, the background actually reflects that with the way that things rotate. It's actually really impressive to look at. This is a relatively obscure game. An article I was reading about it from 2017 placed this at about a $600 game. But I think these days it's even higher, probably north of $1,000. So this is one of those ultra rare games.
Mm-hmm.
One of our players was talking about. One of our players was talking about if they had a copy. I told them it was a Saturn game, and they said if they had a copy of it, they'd play on console. And I said, I don't think you have a copy of this.
The characters are very similar. You get to pick between 2 of them. Ninjas with psychic powers that can move and shoot at the same time. And co-op is a thing. Yeah, feudal Japan. Bounty hunters looking to save somebody. Time Warner Interactive. PlayStation planned, but never released it.
There's a few pickups I'll see occasionally. Sometimes when you kill an enemy or a group of enemies, they'll drop a little bit of health for you, or they'll find it throughout the stage. That'll be pretty important. You can see their life counter on the left-hand side underneath their portrait. It's not written in Arabic numerals, it's written in Chinese numerals, so, you know, 2 lines for 2, 1 line for 1, and a circle for 0. So if you're trying to figure out how many lives that player has, it's there.
Time Warner Interactive made a couple of games that I had. They were also responsible for Primal Rage. They made a lot of board games that I had, I think. Maybe not. But, they made a lot of stinky games. I think one of the worst ones they made is the Lawnmower Man games. They tried to Rise the Robots, pretty unpopular. But it was a neat attempt at gaming. Anyway, they went out of business right after this was made, I guess. So that's one of the reasons why there's only a couple thousand copies.
There's a lot of run and gun style games where there's basically never a safe place to stand. Like every boss can attack you from any location, and usually those are games that have a lot of mobility. But this is actually, the movement in this game is a little bit stilted. When you're attacking on the ground, you can't move, and you can jump a little bit. There's a slide animation, but for the most part, it really feels like the game doesn't expect you to move too much. And for that reason, a lot of the bosses do have places where you can safely stand for, you know, a small chunk of time without any threat, which is kind of, it's fun to find those patterns in boss fights. Like, where can I stand and just kind of spam some attacks until they move or do something.
I'm gonna give this game some music. What do you think about that?
Please do. The boss that Okami's on in particular was one that it's kind of interesting because different attacks he has, you can definitely find some safe places to stand for a bunch of them, which is really nice because he hits pretty hard.
The Saturn's giving them access to cutscenes and 2.5D action. Saturn gets a little bit of that. Saturn is
there's another
constantly
feature
for FMVs.
There's another feature of this game that we didn't mention because I didn't expect anyone was really going to take advantage of it, but Okami actually has. Okami read the little bit of instructions that I gave and found that there's sort of like a psychic charm ability that you have as well, which allows you, for certain enemies, it doesn't work for every enemy, but for certain enemies, you can enlist them to be allies for you and to fight on your side. Okami actually had a guy fighting the boss with him, though he kind of died pretty quickly. I'm interested to see if we see more of that. Digi on his side as well. You can see that yellow ninja jumping around. That's a guy working on his side.
I can see if anyone else has music playing. I don't think anyone does, though. No.
Yeah, it could just be an emulation issue that the music's not coming out. I don't remember hearing any music when I played it, but I just don't recall.
It's tough to get the Saturn to listen sometimes. Mr. Bones has QuickTime Event music games that I couldn't play. There's some demons.
There's a few like body horror enemies in this. I mean, it's got some creepies in it if you're squeamish, but honestly, I really enjoyed what of this I played. I got a little bit further than Okami is right now when I was testing this earlier. I got about 2 bosses further than this, and the game just kept getting better. I was kind of uncertain if it would stay as good as it started, and it definitely did.
I actually did give them the music, but it is probably just complicated to play. I think I'll just play that music that I have here for this game. Let me make a list here. There we go. This is the game's music.
The game did come with a Q file, but it was not loading correctly in BizHawk, so I told them just to run the ISO.
It's the kind of music you would expect. Creepy feudal Japan, just skeleton music for getting jumped in the street of Japan. And what year would this even be? Like the 1400s?
Yeah, unsurprisingly, Okami is about to clear in about 8 minutes what took me about 15 minutes to do on my own, so... Okami just stays winning.
You can tell that the treasure art department is involved here a little bit. Some of the guys who worked on that team were here. You can see it with this big boss that everyone is on currently.
Yeah.
That's treasure. That's that Genesis style. There's this wavy skeleton man on a boat, also cool.
Okami's really running away with this thing. This game, I mean, I feel like everyone else is playing at the level I was playing at, and Okami is just like running away with this.
It has been 10 minutes. Here comes the blocks.
Yeah, this boss that Okami's on right now is the last one that I fought in testing. Kind of a cool little stage, though. It pops out little platforms for you and rotates. You can damage it when it's closed, but you deal a lot more damage when it's open. I think the hardest thing about this game is that there's always, or very often, a ton of very small projectiles that are hard to see, and you do need to depend quite a lot on the targeting reticule to find those things for you, to destroy them. All right, I want Okami to solve the riddle of this guy because he annoyed me and I said that's the end of my testing. Yeah, I mean, definitely the run and gun genre, this whole style, it's definitely the sort of thing that Okami just might have a lot of experience with. Which, great if so. Maybe he found a new one he wasn't aware of or familiar with. This game was awesome, though. I hope more people see it right now and give it a shot, because it's, in my opinion, it's a beautiful game, like shockingly beautiful, and I feel like it deserves some love. Okami's still on his original set of lives too, if I'm not mistaken. He's used 2 of them. He's on his last life for this continue, but still he's surprising that he's still on that first set.
Skeleton with orb is pretty neat. I'm not sure what's going on with it exactly. You hit the orb away when it gets close?
Yeah, he's shooting fireballs at you, and I didn't manage to get them to return to him correctly, so there's maybe some secret to it, or maybe he's just timing it better than I did. Digi's on the fun part. The floor is spiders. All right, Targon just got his first continue. No problem. Still plugging away at it. Tarragon looks like he's second closest, right on Okami's heels, about 2 bosses behind.
The orb style, the snake is just Jafar from Aladdin SNES. It's just the same boss. Alright, snake has exploded. Moving on. I like the slide. I like these Contra-likes is what I would say this game actually is more than... It's kind of like, have you played Alien Soldier?
I'm familiar with it, I haven't played it.
It's only bosses. It's got some of these moves. It's got more of these kind of moves, really.
Wait, is that the one we... Am I misremembering? Is that the one we did for Speedbump one time?
I think we did.
That's the one that's just basically the boss rush.
Yeah. It's tough. It's a tough game.
Okay, I think I was confusing it with something else, but now I remember that game.
I'll drop the title of this game on screen so people can find it, because I can't really pronounce it very well. Okay, it's down bottom. Shinrei, Jusatsushi, Taromaru. Sega Saturn. Japan only. Look at that frog.
What a frog.
I don't know a whole lot about whatever you want to call it, mythology maybe? Why there's giant ass frogs in Japanese media all the time? Like there's a thing in anime all the time where there's some huge frog with a weapon and he's got like a shirt on and he's a cool ass frog who smokes and he's just a fighting champ and he's usually a ninja's best friend. There's one in like Naruto, has a dude devoted to this. He summons these guys all the time. I don't know a whole lot about what's going on with frogs, but here's one.
There needs to be more frogs.
Yeah, I mean, I got no complaints. I just think it's neat and it's hard to find information on that kind of stuff. Like, there's usually, if you see a recurring thing like this frog, or I saw an enemy or two so far, the demons that have shown up that are very similar. There's often a demon that's one leg and it's a lampshade and it's hopping around. They all have a little backstory that you can learn. Yeah, there's a lot of yokai that sort of make their way into Japanese video games. Like even Mario Land 2 has the Kasoabake, the umbrella yokai. I think there's just like a lot of Japanese folklore that's easy to lean on for video game content. That's my guess. Anyway, that frog is dead. It's Donkey Kong time now. Minecart. I looked away for a second, then you were right. I'm just playing random tracks from the game, so they're not necessarily matching up the stage that the players are on. We are pulling Rob's audio for the actual fighting. Here's this moon. What the hell is this? What is this here? The Bone Lightning Moon.
That's a weird thing to be fighting. I thought it was going to be like an antlion's horns, but nope. It's just giant antlers you're fighting. What's this guy? Just antlers? He's just antlers. Now, my testing, I was trying to make sure that mashing wasn't the dominant strategy, and I think that if you're a really, like, solid masher and it doesn't disrupt your ability to, you know, use the rest of the controls adequately, then mashing probably is best. But this does have charge attacks, as I mentioned at the beginning, and they're, in my opinion, as good as mashing. Like, I'm a pretty good masher, and I felt like I was doing as much, if not more damage, charging up my attacks. That's something that Mega Man nailed, and I don't think about it much, but they actually did an incredible job of making mashing worthless in every single game across the board, pretty much. Except for maybe like the Battle Network games, because a glitch you can do to hop around and get around the iframes. But in every other Mega Man game, mashing is pointless. All the bosses have iframes, and charge shots are great. I think that's the important thing. I think a game letting you mash isn't so bad as long as there's like a better option. Like, that should not be the dominant strategy. What's going on in Okami's screen? Okami's left the area I'm capable of describing. Is that kind of hell mass is this thing? The level Okami's on is apparently called the Hour of the Monkey. I don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm just passing this information along. It's hard to know even what gameplay elements are happening with this.
This dude just dragging Okami downwards. Trapped
Yeah, it
in a
looks like he's
bubble.
just trapped in this bubble, and all he can do is use his psychic attack on the things around him, so he has to figure out how to navigate the boss fight with that.
Seems to be dying.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be going great if I had to say.
There are 10 minutes left. Seems like they're taking constant damage in the cell that they're stuck in. Oh, they've done something. Some kind of ricochet shot happened. Okami is a regular big contender for this. I don't think that they've played this game before. Maybe they have. Maybe they played other games very similar to it. I've played many games like this. This one's very well done, though, it looks like to me.
I think you'd enjoy this. It definitely doesn't feel as fluid as Contra. Like, it feels like it's expecting you not to move quite so much, but you can figure out how to get around that, and...
Well, Contra's got a big problem that I actually don't like with the one-hit kill, losing your gun, and you're done for Galaga problem.
Sure.
Gradius is the game. But yeah, where you just have a cool gun like Spread Shot, and they kind of designed around it a little bit sometimes. It's really hard to control Contra without the right guns. And then you take one death, some dude jumps on your foot, and your big tough guy who just... Man, some of the Contra stages start with them being launched out of volcanoes, or running on helicopter blades, or busting out of a giant's eyeball and flying in on a jetpack, and then they die in one hit from anything. And it just, the gameplay for that is tough. So anytime they have a health bar, like in Contra Hardcore, Japanese, not American, you have a health bar, I think it's a better game, usually. I do like Contra 3 a lot, though. But that movement is essential because of the health, and when you don't need to worry about it so much, it's okay.
I think the gameplay for this is really solid, but I think really the fantastic thing about this game is how graphically stunning it is.
Yeah. Sega Saturn nails this. You know, this is the same console that brought us the glorious Mr. Bones with the Funny Bones game.
I love that jokes game. You remember when I was telling the jokes?
Yeah.
Oh, man, we all laughed so hard.
I went to see the doctor. It was okay.
Good times.
Dude's fighting the frog. Tarragon's fighting the frog, winning. The frog has launched its gross eggs.
Like, I'm trying to think of a game of this era that I think looks as good as this, and I don't know, just the weird sort of 2D 3D thing that it's got going on here really works for me. Like, this definitely lands for me.
You're gonna have to go to the arcade main machines and pay quarters to play a game of equal quality. That's where you're gonna find it. That's what Saturn's good for. I think the Saturn really dropped the ball because these games should have done better than they did. Just bad marketing, I guess. I'm not really sure on the history of this console because it didn't exist anywhere I ever saw it. So all these games are games I didn't get to see much. They lost big time to the PlayStation, which honestly does not have that many attractive games. I'm big on the PlayStation library, and it's got a lot of games that look ugly as hell. They're just 3D, and they didn't hold up. I love Armored Core, and that's probably the prettiest of the 3D you're gonna get, and that's only because mechs are easy to draw. Resident Evil 1 and stuff look okay. Almost every other game is disgusting.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen screenshots of what remains in this stage, and I assure you it gets more incomprehensible.
Yeah. There was nothing.
It just gets worse from here. It just gets worse. The next stage looks like it has a fight with Ninetales, though. That rules.
Saturn's got that pool game with Minnesota Fats. You ever play that?
I have not. No, I missed out on the pool game with Minnesota Fats.
There's an FMV where a man tries to shoot him and he knocks his gun out of his hand with a pool stick. A pool cue, as we say, as our professional players call it. Yeah.
The only person I want to play pool with is my good friend Smite.
Yeah, come on down.
Forget that Minnesota Fats guy. I don't even know him.
I was just telling Maddie the other day, it's, you know, I got all these like $70 games. I got Mario RPG, you can play it, save $70, just fly on over here, save some money. It pays for the ticket. Play some billiards. Kami's on a different weird, awful thing.
I believe this is the last boss of this stage, and then there's 2 stages left. So Okami's actually made really great progress for only being 30 minutes into this. I would say all of our players have done really well, but Okami's really kind of, like we've said many times, run away with this game. With Tarragon close behind, Rob Snowlock caught up to Tarragon.
It's a mystery games racing skill that you develop when you don't really have any instructions and you just try and figure out what the games want. You play a lot of variety of stuff. Okami is one of the best in the world.
I started speedrunning in the mystery tournaments. Or, I mean, you know, I started doing mystery tournaments when I started speedrunning. You can definitely, when you see the same names win quite often, you realize that, like, there is something that they are doing differently. Like, they are better at intuiting what a game wants from you quickly.
I feel like I'm pretty strong in this random category, but I've only tried a couple times. I definitely run into walls that it's very frustrating when you're doing a tournament and you're not allowed to communicate at all. What are you supposed to do to get through here? And you can't figure it out and you just get stuck. Sometimes these games don't have much instruction. This enemy that Okami is fighting is very similar to the fella from Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night. It waves around a bunch of weapons.
Can't believe Rondo ripped off this game.
Three minutes left. Doesn't look like anyone's gonna like game over permanently, or at least not in a drastic manner.
Yeah, I think we're safe from that, though I'm still not sure what the overall full game over looks like, whether or not it's possible to lose all your progress. But nevertheless, I think we're gonna be safe from such an outcome. Yeah, I think unless there's some big upset coming up pretty soon, it looks like Okami, Tarragon, and Rob are our top 3 in that order.
Patty and Digi are on the same stage. I think Dude and Tarragon are past that. Saxy's in the back fighting the frog.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nine-tailed fox. Another thing that shows up sometimes in media. Now that's, I'm pretty sure that's Chinese mythology, but I don't know a whole lot about it. It's a shapeshifter of some kind. That's almost all I've got.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
One minute left.
Does this mean we have a Saturn Gong show to look forward to?
I'm sure there's plenty of shovelware, including Minnesota Fats, which is a pretty lousy pool game.
Even as far as pool games go, it's bad?
A lot of pool games have a problem where a shot is actually impossible because they only give you like degrees and you need like half a degree to be able to do the shot. So you have to put weird spin on it that no human would be able to do without like playing a billion hours of that particular pool game. It's really annoying.
Right.
Like I could do it in real life, no problem, but then doing it on that sucks. But then there's a lot of NES games that let you zoom in and adjust the angle. So time is up. There are pool games that are better, made 20 years prior to that. The race is complete. Nice work, everybody.
I'm just gonna let them know their placement. Sometimes we try to come up with a scoring system to record the winner, but this time I'm just gonna let them know the order.
All right. That's a cool game.
It was a lot of fun.
One of the allegedly rarest Saturn games of all time because of the company shutting down right after production. And it's on the Saturn, which is also not great for production. And it's Japanese only, which also is not great. Just for your collection. Good luck.
Yeah, it's kind of understandable why this one flew under the radar, but it's a shame because it looks fantastic.
Yep. Thanks for joining me, Author Blues.
Absolutely. You have a great night.
You too.